Hello and welcome to my podcast, Used to Be's Do Count, with me, Dean James. You're listening to episode number 3, I Used to Be Straight. In this episode, I'll be speaking to Kimberley Maynard, who talks about her journey from living as a straight person to being in a loving, supportive, same-sex relationship with her girlfriend.
Because of my therapy and because I'd worked so hard on who I was as a person and what I wanted from a relationship, I think I was quite strict about what I wanted. So I'd meet somebody and if they didn't fit into that criteria of what I wanted, I was just like, next.
Kimberley speaks so openly about her experience, about coming to terms with her sexual identity, being attracted to women, and coming out to her family.
You kind of know how they're going to take it, but you're never 100% sure.
Thank you for listening, and now without further ado, let's dive in. Hello, Kim. Welcome to Used to Be's Do Count. You're one of my first ever guests, so thank you.
Ah, lovely.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're going to be very early on in the phase of recording, and I really appreciate you giving your time. But for those of you who don't know you, your name is Kimberley Maynard.
Yeah.
You are a mother, a grandmother.
Yeah.
I think people will not be able to believe that.
Thank you.
You are a qualified therapist.
Yeah.
And you are an incredible singer. I've had the pleasure of hearing your voice.
Thanks.
You're an amazing performer and you do all of that as well. Is there anything else that you're doing at the moment that I've missed out?
Well, I work for the council. That's kind of my main job as a project officer. But yeah, I do all those other things around it, singing, acting, parenting, grandparenting. So, yeah.
Great. And we're going to talk about all of that and what you're doing now because it is obviously really important. But as you know, this podcast is about what you used to be because we're saying that used to be's do count. So what was your used to be?
Well, I used to be straight. And now I'm not.
So you used to be straight. You used to be heterosexual.
Yeah.
Living a heterosexual life, and we're going to discuss that. So that's really interesting because you are a mum and a grandmum, and you've sort of come out and started to live your truth a little bit later in life.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to sort of go back to, if we're going to really talk about this sexual identity journey, I'd quite like to start by going back to really when we all as humans discover our sexual identity through adolescence, really, isn't it? Like in school around 14, 15, 16, it's different for different people. But let's go way back there.
Way back.
not that far.
Feels like it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, for me too. So let's go way back to adolescence.
Yeah.
You're in school. Just paint a picture of that time for us. What kind of time period were we in where you were, but also where we were in society? Yeah,
so I was in secondary school in the 90s. I started secondary school in 1993. And I remember first kind of noticing boys, I suppose, around 13, 14. Really, that's when I really became interested. But it's kind of... Everybody else was noticing boys, so that's all. We used to have magazines back then, all the the boy bands and things that were out back then, and all girls used to talk about was boys and how we felt about boys at that time.
So your girl group or girlfriend groups were buying magazines that were I actually remember this vividly as well. I'm a very similar age.
Yeah.
For those people that really don't know what you're talking about, some of these magazines like Smash Hits.
Yeah, Just 17.
Just 17. Really aimed at teenage girls and really boy-driven. Boy band. Take That. 5. I don't know.
Yeah.
Boys
there was also a magazine that I probably shouldn't have been reading at that time. I think it was called More Magazine. And that was very sexualised. It used to have Position of the Fortnight in there every time it came out. Yeah, and I remember being about 14 reading that. And it was very much aimed at... It was probably aimed at a little bit older than I was, but obviously I was able to get a hold of it. It was just about kind of how to get your man and, what things to do to try and get that man in your life and things like that. And I remember reading those, Just 17, More Magazine, Smash Hits, things like that. And just being bombarded with with boys and men.
It's incredible, really, when you think about it. It's so the norm.
Yeah.
You don't even think that there is an agenda at all to it, because you're just living through that norm. But now so much has changed, and you look back at that and you think, wow, the media, there was an agenda to push to young people this heteronormative lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it was very much the same for boys as well. There was the FHM, there was the lads magazines, there was the lads culture in the 90s. I lived through that as well. So I really do relate to what you're saying on the opposite spectrum of the gender. And you don't realise the effect that it has on you. So with hindsight, what effect did that have on you, would you say?
It's difficult to say, really, because I've been thinking about this since I've kind of come out, which is only really in the last year. And was it that I was suppressing my homosexuality, or was it that I was genuinely straight at that time and I didn't know any kind of different, I suppose? So I talk about it with my partner, and like even the boy bands that I liked, like 3T, which were like Michael Jackson's nephews. They were very pretty looking.
Yeah, I remember them. Yes.
And I was obsessed. I had about 63 posters of them on my wall that I'd collected from all these different magazines, and I just think they were like the most prettiest boys that you could find, very feminine looking boys. But I was genuinely interested in boys, and I think it was that everybody was at that time. Do you know what I mean? So we were just going with the flow, I think. So
yeah,
I don't know how much of an influence it had on me. Probably looking back now, probably a lot. But at that time, I was just kind of being me, just living and doing what everybody else was doing. It didn't even occur to me that I might be bisexual or a lesbian, because nobody I knew was at that time. There was nobody. I had no friends who were gay. Being gay was seen as a very negative thing in my social group, and the friends that I had.
Well, and at that time in general, being gay was not a thing.
No.
If it was definitely deemed as a negative thing in society.
Yeah.
And there was also a rule that Maggie Thatcher brought in that people of adults and school teachers could never talk about it.
Yeah.
So it was never spoken about.
No.
And anything that was shown in the media was always a bit negative.
Yeah.
It was a bit like fringe of society, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the gays live on the fringes of society and they do dirty things in the darkness. That was kind of like the propaganda, the stuff that we were seeing. So the fact that you didn't have, and you wouldn't at that age, you're just with your group of friends, going with the flow, feeling like, okay, I'm straight, I'm into boys, let's put the boys' posters up on the walls, the ones that we get free with the magazines and stuff.
Yeah. Also, because there was a couple of people around in my friendship, not in my friendship group, but kind of on the periphery of my friendship group, who were very clearly gay, but weren't out as gay, and would be kind of dating women and all the rest of it. But even then, even with the gay people that I kind of had a feeling might be gay, I never saw any women that were gay. So I only had, for me, gayness was a man's thing. It wasn't that women could be with other women type of thing. I didn't really know about that type of thing. So it was nothing I could really ever explore back then, because it wasn't anything I really knew about or had anybody that I could look to say, oh, that's what being a lesbian is, or being with a woman is. I never had any kind of role models in that sense.
It's interesting because, we say now representation matters. It really does. This is like a trigger key thing that people say, and having role models is so important. And I do think that there were glimpses of two men on TV, or gays like Lily Savage dressing up, drag queens and stuff, but there was a lack of females.
Definitely.
There was a lack of lesbians in any kind of role as role models. You just didn't see them on TV. You didn't see them being spoken of at all. No. It's interesting,
And as I grew up, like, I would eventually meet people who were lesbians. And it always intrigued me. I was just like, wow, that's like amazing. Like, two women can actually be together. And it was something that I always like kind of looked at and thought, wow, I'm really interested in that, because it was something that I hadn't really seen before. So that was
kind of back in school and adolescence, you were into boys. It was normal.
Yeah.
We spoke a little bit about those societal norms as well that we're just like riding the wave of. We don't know anything else. And take me into sort of teenage to young adult years when you actually started to be sexually active and having your children.
Well, I became sexually active quite young. It was a week before my 15th birthday, so it was illegal. Please don't get me arrested. It was quite early on, and I'd had this kind of urge to be seen by men or boys as as good looking, as sexy, as someone that they'd want to be with. And I became quite sexual at an early age, I suppose.
I think girls develop much quicker than boys anyway in that sense. So there's probably a lot of girls or women out there around your age feeling like they completely understand that,
And it's not much better now, but actually when we look back at some of the songs, I'm very much into kind of like R&B and soul and things like that, and some of the songs, they're very, very sexualised.
All sexualised.
And sexualised women, as being these sexy, amazing, women that men just can't wait to have sex with.
And so did the music videos, the visuals as well,
Exactly.
MTV Bass and all of that stuff that existed back then was all video girl women.
Exactly.
In bikinis.
Yeah. And so I definitely think that influenced me. I was not wanting, the boyfriend I was with at the time was wanting to wait. I was not wanting to wait. I was like, no, I'm ready for this. This is me. This is what I'm here for, type of thing. And that wasn't a good idea, to be honest, because I definitely wasn't emotionally ready to be sexually active. And it affected me quite a lot, really, just in terms of feeling wanted almost.
Looking for that validation through
external sources.
Sources, but also male sources, males that find you attractive. That was the validation.
Exactly, that's what I wanted to be validated in that way, and obviously that's never going to be a good thing. I was, the boyfriends that I had during that period of time kind of all cheated on me, and it made me feel like, oh, maybe I'm not kind of good enough in bed, sexually, I'm not pretty enough, so it kind of it damaged my ego a little bit and damaged my self-esteem.
I mean, if you're looking for that validation from boys, they give you the validation short term and then they go and cheat because they can't keep it in their pants.
No,
and
then, they're teenage boys.
Of course, but then that really has a detrimental effect on your own self-esteem because that's what you're looking at to build that, right? Your confidence and your self-esteem.
So that really, really affected me.
And did you have any female role models at that time that would openly talk about those things, or you're just navigating that by yourself at that age, right?
No, I think, in the 90s it wasn't cool to kind of talk to your parents about these things like it is now. Like, my kids talk to me about things that I would never have spoken to my mum about at that time.
Which is great.
So I was getting all that information from these magazines that I was reading, like particularly that More magazine, like how to get your man and how to be sexually attractive for your man, and what sexual positions to offer him so that he wants you and all these things. So that's where I remember getting a lot of my information from those magazines. There was no internet at the time, so that was the only source, really. And then the other thing is kind of talking to your friends at school who know just as little as you do.
Absolutely. It's the blind leading the blind. And, you look to the popular kids for advice or something, but they know nothing either. I don't know how they're popular. Is because they're just overtly confident at the time and they become, the most popular person in that group. That's who you get your advice from. It's interesting because we're talking a lot about the magazines and the videos and the music and stuff like this, but it is really important to paint that picture because it has so much effect on our growing up. And I don't regret anything. It was a great time to live in.
It was a really good time.
Fantastic. But really, with hindsight, you look back and you go, God, how much did that affect me? The conversations that these kids are having these days are about gender identity, are about sexual identity, and it almost opens up your brain to go, am I? Could I be? Is that something to explore because it feels normal and the conversation is there?
Never those kind of conversations.
When those conversations are not there, it's just not normal and it's not a thing. So it's not a thing for you to actually even accept within yourself, even if it's subconscious.
Exactly. It wasn't even something that came into my consciousness because it was just something you just didn't talk about.
No.
Like, I was a girl and my aim was to meet a guy, be with him, have children. Like that was it. There was no other option really in terms of what my life held for me.
So you became sexually active quite young.
Yeah.
And then what about the father of your first child?
So I got pregnant quite early. I was 18 when I got pregnant with my daughter, which is why I'm such a young grandmother now. But yeah, so I kind of just had met him on a night out, I think. And yeah, it was more or less, it wasn't the first time I'd met him when we slept together, but it was kind of a one night stand situation.
Yeah.
We wasn't planning on seeing each other again after that.
And that was fine, and that was sort of consensual from both parts. It was like, this is what it is, let's have some fun.
That's it. And then obviously I got pregnant.
Yeah.
So kind of things changed. But even with that, we were never meant to be in a relationship anyway, and I didn't necessarily want to be with him. He didn't really want to be with me. We kind of tried to make a go of it of sorts, but it never really worked because that was never the plan. But then that kind of leaves you feeling unwanted as well. Like, why can't this person put the effort in for me? Like, I'm having this baby.
Yeah, and there's always a sense that you want a normal family, or what's displayed as a normal family, 2.4 children.
Exactly.
Why is this man not turning up for me?
Yeah, and I'd come from a broken family, so my mum and dad had split up when I was quite young, probably like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really something I wanted for my own children, but kind of that's where I was left with. So it was just me and my daughter.
So you were single parenting. Was he good as a distant? No, he wasn't really involved.
He wasn't involved really. He kind of wanted to be and made a bit of an effort at the beginning, but it was never in his plan.
No.
So he didn't really ever make an effort with my daughter. And that probably was a blessing in disguise, to be honest. We were just able to kind of get on with it, the two of us.
No stress, no drama from any external factors.
Exactly.
It's just you being,
just the two of
navigating
us.
your parenthood. And
But yeah, it was, a child bringing up a child, really, wasn't it? Because I was only 18 myself, still a teenager.
Did you have support around you helping you?
Yeah, my mum and dad very supportive, and my grandparents were still around, so they were really supportive, especially like financially helping me with things when like washing machines blow up and things like that. They would help out.
That's great.
So yeah, that was that.
Yeah. Were you still dating men? Yeah.
Still dating men, still actively trying to find the one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if it's Disney movies or what it is, but I've always kind of had this, vision that I will find, the one, this man that's perfect for me, that kind of idolises me and all the rest of it. So I was kind of actively just looking for that.
Yeah.
And then I met my son's dad, and we were together for a couple of years. And he kind of consistently cheated on me throughout that period of time. So just as I'd kind of started to build my confidence back up after having my daughter and having to bring her up on my own, she was about 4 at the time, I think, when I'd met him.
Yeah.
That, the constant kind of gaslighting, the constant...
Which wasn't a term then.
No, I didn't even know it was gaslighting then,
exactly.
But now I know it was gaslighting. But it was basically lying to me or trying to make me believe that what was true wasn't true.
So you entered into what you thought was going to be a faithful monogamous relationship, and he was just being a complete cheat.
And I think that was from the beginning, really. He was he wasn't really wanting to have a serious relationship with me, but I really did want that serious relationship with him. So it probably was a little bit of me trying to force him into something that he necessarily didn't want to be in.
I always say knocking on a door that's never going to open.
Yeah.
And
I fully take my responsibility in that.
But you were still really young.
Yeah, and if so was he.
Yeah,
because we were both the same age. So.
Yeah.
And I think he was trying to tell me and show me by his actions, I'm not ready for this. And I was like, no, I can change you. I can make you the man that I want you to be.
We've all been there, babe, honestly. We've all been there. Especially when we are emotionally intelligent, empathetic people. we always feel that we see the good in people, but we can also save someone. I don't know, people have a saviour complex.
Yeah, I definitely had one of those.
We've all kind of been there and had to learn our lessons with that as well. But anyway, that's another conversation. That happened, and you ended up having your second child.
Yeah, so we'd split up by this point, but we were kind of seeing each other on and off, still sleeping together every now and then, and I ended up getting pregnant again.
Yeah.
It didn't go down very well with him at that time. But after that, he has kind of, stepped up to the plate and is a fantastic father to my son.
Amazing.
And really supportive and really helpful. But we did go through a really tough time around that pregnancy.
Right. Did he not want you to keep it? Or
no, he didn't. No. He didn't want me to have the baby, because obviously we weren't together at the time. He already had children from a previous relationship, so
right.
he wasn't where I was. I just couldn't see me doing that and not having my child.
No, you were adamant you're going to have this child, and that's
with or without him.
Yeah,
eventually it was with him. So well, he was involved. We weren't together, but he was involved and he supported me.
I mean, that's great that happened. That's gone full circle, but also that you'd already done that once.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I knew I could do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up having him, but that whole relationship that turned into about 15 years of me just trying to change his mind, get him to commit to me, get him to be with me. Real on and off, real damaging to my self-esteem and me not seeing my worth really, and kind of walking away from that situation before I should have. We never got back together after I had my son, but we kind of just really were back and forth trying to see if we could kind of make it work or not make it work.
Interesting. And 15 years of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it really was not only about your son and saying you need to be a good dad to your son. It was about
choose me. I wanted him to choose me.
Yeah, as a relationship.
And he was, and he would always be honest about the different relationships or people that he was seeing. And I was just like, why can't that be me? Why can't you choose me and choose us as a family? But that person's okay to be with. That person's okay to kind of live with. And that was really kind of damaging. But when my son was about 3-4, that's when I decided to go and train as a counsellor, as a therapist. So that was life-changing.
Really?
Life-changing for me because...
were you doing this part-time?
So when I got pregnant with my son, I'd just finished my higher national diploma in theatre arts.
Yeah.
And my plan was to kind of go and start auditioning, being an actor, and then I got pregnant and I was like, well, I guess that's not going to be my plan. So I was like out of work, just out of university, and I was like, what shall I do now? So I went on a free course for level 2 counselling and really, really enjoyed it.
Nice. Who was offering this free course?
It was at Halzone College.
Wow.
And at that time, if you were kind of not working on benefits, you could go and do this free course. So I did that, and then I really loved it. So I did my final exam for that the day before I had my son. So I literally, on his due date it was, and then I had him the day after. And then...
wait, can we just pause and take stock for a second? Because that is pretty superwoman. Yeah. I mean, you are... a young mother with one on the way.
One on the way,
right?
One already at home. Yeah.
One already at home. No job. Really, your dream was to act, to sing, to perform, and you sort of said, well, I don't know whether I can do that with a newborn baby and also another one, so let's just figure out something else. And whilst you were heavily pregnant, you were passing exams to be a therapist.
Yeah.
I think anyone out there, especially I think the GCSE results have just come out when we're recording this. I think A-levels came out last time. Yeah. It really took me back to that day as well. Those sort of serious transitions in your life from childhood to adulthood. You are the epitome of just going, well, I don't really know what's going on, but whatever it is, I'm going to do something and I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to find this free course because there are definitely opportunities for that, and I'm just going to do something. I'm not going to sit around and do nothing. I mean, it is incredible.
Thank you.
Really, I can... Anyway,
I was there sitting there heavily pregnant doing this exam. And then after I had him, I think he was probably about 6 months, and I went back to do the level 3. And absolutely love that as well. And then decided to go on to do the level 5, which is like a 2-year course. But during the level 5, you have to have your own therapy and your own counselling. So I had to do 40 hours of counselling myself.
Yeah, and this is called, it's like professional, oh God, the term is like kind of there and now I can't think of it, so I've just interrupted you for nothing, sorry, but it's called professional something. Every professional counsellor, therapist has to have their own professional support as well. Yeah. And so this was the first time that you were actually experiencing therapy for yourself. Yeah. Is that right?
So it wasn't because you have to have supervision, professional supervision.
That's it, clinical supervision. Thank you. Yes.
You have to have clinical supervision, but this wasn't supervision. This was personal therapy.
Oh,
so you have to have your own personal therapy. Okay. I suppose number one, to understand what it's like to be a therapist and to be a client of a therapist as well.
Yeah.
And then also just to kind of, you can't be a therapist if you've not addressed some of your own issues and problems, because they're going to definitely come back up in the counselling room when you're with a client.
Yeah.
So I had to have my own therapy, and that was a bit hit and miss. I had a couple of counsellors during that time, but I did manage to work through some of those issues, really, just about my self-worth, my self-esteem. And although it didn't at that time help me stop the relationship that, you know, the toxicness that was going on between me and my son's father, it built towards that. So I started to, you know, become who I really am as a person, I suppose. And once I'd qualified as a therapist, the first big change that happened after that was I stopped relaxing my hair. I stopped straightening my hair and allowed my natural curls.
Which are gorgeous. Wow. That is a really visual thing for you as well.
Yeah.
Like hair is, you know, hair is really important, and it changes the face. And you know, people say, oh, when I broke up, I got a new hairdo or whatever. But you actually just started to embrace your natural curls naturally. And that was a representation of embracing who you really were.
Yeah,
as
becoming
a person.
Me, as you know, Kimberley, the real version of me. And I'd relaxed my hair for so long, since I was about 12, I'd been relaxing my hair, that I didn't even know I had these curls underneath my hair. Like, back when I had curly hair before I started relaxing it, we didn't have the products to be able to manage that type of hair. So all I'd do is just kind of scrape it up into a bun, and I'd never I've hardly ever let it out and just be the way it was.
And how did that feel when you started to do that? Did you start to feel like it, so that you went through this therapy, you started to stop relaxing your hair and embrace it? There was a real change in the way you felt in yourself.
Yeah, and I don't think I'd really realised it at the time. So it wasn't kind of like, I've done therapy and now I'm going to stop relaxing my hair. It kind of just happened naturally. Naturally, yeah. I was like, I'm just going to let my hair do what it wants to do and see. And it was a bit of a culture shift at that time, where people had stopped relaxing their hair, and there was quite a few people online that were coming out, going through the transition process of their hair. So
again, this is really crucial as well for people like yourself with afro hair and people of colour. It was a different time.
Yeah.
Society showed us different things, and there was expectations around girls, around women, and around young boys and men and stuff, but then also around people of colour or people with afro hair.
Yeah,
it just wasn't the thing to let it natural.
Just how important representation is, because when I was younger, all the magazines were of, you know, black women or mixed race women with dead straight hair. Like you would never see curly hair, natural curly hair. And at that time, there was it just exploded all over the internet, in magazines, everywhere, of people kind of just embracing their natural curls. And I was like, I wonder what my hair's like underneath here. So I did that and realised that I had, you know, lovely curly hair that I really, really love. And that helped me to kind of start to get to know who I am as a person. During that time, I was still dating, still kind of trying to find the one. By then, online dating was a thing.
Right, so this online dating boom happened as well, and your preferences were still programmed to be men.
Yeah.
You were still looking for the one, the knight in shining armour.
Yeah. But by then, I think I had started to wonder, you know, if there was an interest in women. Obviously, it had become a lot more talked about by then. You would see more representation on TV.
Yeah.
You
started to have some feelings that would surface, and maybe your conscious brain was starting to get your head around the fact that it could be a possibility for you to explore that, right? With a woman.
I think I saw it more as maybe a kink, maybe.
Yeah,
like who I was. I was like.
And how old were you at this point?
How old would I have been? Ooh, probably in my early 30s.
Yeah. Did you feel that you were really over all of that stuff that was happening with your son's dad at that time? Were you after that therapy, relaxing, stopping to relax your hair, you were sort of through that?
We still had a bit of a toxic thing going on, but he was kind of doing his thing and I was kind of doing my thing, and we both knew that we were off doing other things, but we would still every now and then kind of come back together, have a bit of a blazing row, and then not talk to each other again. So we were still kind of going through that bit of a toxic nature, but
patterns, habits and patterns.
I was more free to think and explore about relationships, and started to open up the idea of actually being somebody else other than him, like he wasn't the one. And got that into my head that me and him weren't ever going to work, especially with everything that had happened and all the water that was under the bridge. It was probably not a good idea for us to be in a relationship at that time. So I'd started this online dating, and that became a whole other thing. Because I became a little bit of a serial dater. I was kind of addicted to dating then. I love to meet people anyway, and I love to get to know new people. So it was great to kind of go out on dates and meet new people and find out about people. But obviously online dating is a very precarious world to live in.
It is.
Yeah, I kind of came up against some very strange and odd situations, very scary situations as well, where, you're just meeting people that are not okay. They're not okay, and the only way that they can meet people is online.
And you're completely and utterly vulnerable in a situation, and you're putting yourself in that vulnerable situation.
Exactly.
Now this has happened to be becoming the norm. There is a lot more conversation around keeping people safe, of course, but at the time, again, I remember the time where there was a massive boom, and being gay, actually I was doing that way before heteros were. My heterosexual friends were like, what, you're just going to go and meet this stranger?
The stranger from the internet, and now everybody's doing it.
And now everyone's doing it. And so you were still meeting men.
Yeah.
You were a serial dater because, why? I guess it's a really difficult question, but why do you think that was? Because of
my therapy, and because I'd worked so hard on who I was as a person and what I wanted from a relationship. I think I was quite strict about what I wanted. So I'd meet somebody, and if they didn't fit into that criteria of what I wanted, I was just like, next. And plus, I think I'd got to a stage where I didn't know I wanted to be with women, but I didn't like men anymore.
So serial date, that's really interesting, because serial dating was you going, I'm trying to find the man. I'm
trying to find something.
Something that fits. And almost it was like, no, next, next. And you were kind of eager to find someone.
Yeah, and I got to a stage where I just really didn't like men anymore. Like they would bore me. They would just make me feel sick, to be honest. And I had to try and reconcile that in my head and kind of take my responsibility for that almost, because obviously I'm raising a son and I want to raise him in the best way possible, as the best man possible. And I had to try and remember that not all men are the same. But when I was dating, I kind of had this, I didn't trust them. I just could see through them. They were lying. I just knew that they were not, being who they said they were being.
Your experience of relationships with men would probably definitely feed into that, but then also turning up to date a stranger, essentially, who probably presented to themselves someone completely different online, and then you turn up and you go, this person's a weirdo, or this person's not who they say they are, or they don't look like their photo, which happens now. You just go, actually everyone's just lying all the time, dishonest.
Exactly. And I kind of, it's difficult, because when I think back on the relationships that kind of did work, they were always based on kind of a more of a friendship. So, it was more about the friendship that we had that made me happy in that kind of relationship than it was any like sexual or, any kind of normative standards. It was kind of, we just had a really good friendship. We used to laugh together, we used to have fun together, and those are the things that made me want to be with that person, rather than
the sex.
The sex, or the fact that they were a man. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's great as well. So you started to get that sense that I like this man.
Yeah.
I like spending time with him, but I don't want to be sexual with him, and started to maybe explore.
Well, it's not that I didn't want to be sexual with them, I suppose. It was just, that wasn't the reason why I was there. Because I found that I could get sex quite easily, especially like when you're online dating. If I wanted to have sex, I could get sex. But I was looking for definitely more than that.
And most men are on there that are not. I know that's a real generalisation, but I think my experience, again, loads of girlfriends that have been through so many conversations, and they're just like, you meet a guy, they'll say they're looking for a relationship, they're like, but they're not. They're just looking for a shag.
Yeah,
you know, it's
exactly.
like
Exactly that.
Yeah, it's tough. And so there was a lead up to you changing your filter criteria on these dating apps to look for women. So just talk me through.
Probably took me about 2 years to actually do.
Okay.
So I'd been having these conversations with close friends about, I'm just going to start dating women. And it was more of a jokey type comment. And I think a lot of women probably say that sometimes, like, I'm so sick of men, I'm just going to start dating women.
Yeah.
And they never end up actually doing it.
And so you kind of put it out there, but in jest.
Yeah,
so no
just in jest to my friends. And obviously with the online situation and the fact that, you know, there was so much representation online about women with other women, I started to become more interested in that, and I was like, oh, maybe I could date a woman, you know, maybe. And also I joined the Crescent Theatre, which we haven't really spoken about yet, but being part of a theatre society, an amateur dramatic society, there's loads of gay people in the theatre. Yeah. So, you know, the representation just went through the roof because, you know, the majority of my friends were either at the theatre were either gay, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual. Like there was all the different LGBTQ plus criteria that you can think of in the theatre.
And so really open and nonchalant about it.
And
like,
just
this is what I am,
it,
let's move on, let's sing a song. Like, that's how the theatre is, isn't it?
Yeah, so it kind of just really opened my eyes to the fact that there's this whole other world out there that I've not kind of explored. And it made me start thinking, you know, is this the reason why my relationships with men are not working? Because I suppose the other thing to say is that I've never been in a long-term serious relationship. I know I said that I, you know, was on and off with my son's dad for like 15 years, but we weren't in a relationship. We never lived together. You know, there were no plans for us ever to kind of get married or buy a house together. Like, we were never in a serious committed relationship, and I've never had a serious committed relationship with a man. Apart from my son's dad, the longest relationship I've probably been in is probably about 8 months. So, you know, I've not had that experience. So I'm like, is this the reason that I'm not having luck with men? Is because actually I don't want to be with a man, and I've kind of forced myself into this box that I don't belong in.
How did you feel when you started to have those thoughts and feelings? Did you feel like confident to open and explore, or did it feel a bit shameful?
Yeah,
how
not
did it
shameful.
feel?
I don't think I felt shameful about it, but I think I worried about my family.
Okay.
So if I'm really, really honest, like, my feelings of wanting to maybe explore whether I wanted to be with women or not, you know, happened quite early, really. I would every now and then think about it, but I would always suppress it because I always thought, well, what would my children think? You know, I just suddenly changed my sexuality, or, you know, what are my parents going to think about it? And the thought of having to try and explain how I've suddenly gone from being straight to not straight to my family and close friends always kind of put me off exploring that side of myself.
So you were having those feelings, it's much easier to just suppress them and carry on with your identity, really, to the world, to your own children, to your mum, to your family, you know, siblings, whatever, was that you were a straight woman. Yeah. And especially because you had your kids so young.
I've got 2 kids,
that was never going, like...
Never questioned by anybody.
It wasn't flexible, like, oh, Kim's a maybe because she's been into... It's just like, no, she's into men and that's that.
Exactly.
So changing that felt a bit of a mountain.
It was going to be a big shock to people, wasn't it, when I kind of told them.
Yeah.
I would never even let myself think about it, I suppose, in that sense. It would come up and then I would just be like, oh, it's just a kink. I'd pass it off as a little bit of a kink.
Yeah.
Men like to have sex with two women. Maybe there's a threesome situation that I'm into, even though I've never done that.
Yeah.
But I would allow myself to think about it in that way.
In that sense, which is sexuality is fluid and evolving, and we can kind of move in and out of different situations and be
never to be in a relationship.
But never to be fully fledged in a relationship. No. Okay, interesting.
So I would never think about it in that sense. So that the process of doing that was a couple of years in the making, just kind of me, starting to think maybe I'm not fully straight, but not changing my profile settings, not ever trying to date women in any kind of way. I would just think, okay, I'm not fully straight, but I'm not going to tell anybody about that. And then it came to a head probably about a year ago, around this time actually, where I was just like,
are we coming up to your year anniversary?
Yes.
Wow, okay, good timing. Good timing.
Probably around this time, actually. I was kind of just a bit like, why am I not exploring this side? What is it? I really questioned myself and sat and had a good talk to myself. Why are you not exploring it? My kids are really liberal. They don't care about stuff like this. I'm at that age now, especially when you turn 40 and you get to over 40. I'm 42 now. I'm not, here to impress anybody. Nobody else has got to live my life other than me. So why am I doing things and not, being true to who I am because of what other people might say or think?
Do you think there's a bit of a change when you pass 40, I think, as well, right? Those thoughts and feelings of, I'm not living my life for anyone else anymore. Yeah. No one can really comment unless they walk a mile in my shoes. Exactly. Those things, you become maybe a much more confident, secure person when you pass 40, and you think, well, I'm 40 now. What am I going to be doing for the next 40 years?
And it was a massive change for me when I turned 40. I just felt so free.
Really? Yeah.
I think those, from turning 40 up until, I was, it was just after I turned 41. That was really the year of transition for me, where I was just like, I just want to be me. I don't want to live for anybody else. I don't want to be anything other than who I truly am. Yeah. And I need to allow myself to explore some other things in my life,
No apologies, no excuses. Yeah. The right people are attracted to you when you live your truth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I believe very much in kind of like the universe and like that spiritual sense of it. And I've really been exploring that over the year before I, made the decision to kind of change my profile settings. And I just thought there's something out there. The universe is calling me to something, and I couldn't really explain kind of what that was. And so, I just thought, let me just... And I had experimented with changing my settings, but like probably about 6 months prior. But I'd never built up the courage to actually match with somebody. So I'd seen women, and then I would be like, oh, she's nice, but I couldn't do the swipe yes on the...
Okay, so that was about 6 months of seeing what's out there, but never committing to a match.
And then I would change them back, just in case somebody would see it and be like, Kimberley's on the, Kimberley's looking for women, or whatever it might be. So I kind of had a bit of a back and forth. But about a year ago, I just said to myself, yes, I'm going to change my setting. I think I was only on Tinder at that time. No promotions there for Tinder. But about a year ago, I just made that decision that I was going to change my profile settings to women and men. So I hadn't made the decision to go fully women. And I thought, I am going to, swipe and see some people. So I'd swiped a few people and had a few matches. And I got talking to 2 people, I think, at the time. But one kind of, really stood out. And I decided that I would meet her and see where that went.
So that was a big deal to even go on the commitment of meeting someone in person. So where did you meet this person?
So we decided to meet in Oxford.
Okay.
Yeah, and
so you live in Birmingham?
I live in Birmingham, and she lives in London.
Okay, so you kind of decided on a middle ground?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was probably about a week we was talking before we actually decided to meet up. Mm-hmm. And I was really open and honest with her. I was like, I've dated men. I've only just changed my settings to dating women. This is all really new to me. I'd never, at this point, never even kissed another woman. So,
right.
like, you know, I've got straight friends that have kissed more women than I have.
Yeah.
So, I was just really open and honest about that, and was just like, you know, it's not an experiment, no. I know, you know, I've been thinking about my interest in women for a very long time, and I'm not looking to experiment with. I was very certain that I didn't want to experiment with women. It wasn't that I wanted to go out and just find out if I, you know, was sexually attracted to women. I was looking for a special connection with somebody, whether that be a man or a woman. I wasn't really bothered.
Yeah, at that point you were adamant that it actually didn't matter whether it was a man or a woman. It was what you were looking for was an emotional, spiritual connection.
It wasn't a sexual thing. It was kind of, I want to meet somebody who wants the same things as me, has the same values as me, who, you know, is looking for the same kind of future as me. I was in my 40s. I was absolutely sick of messing around with people. You know, sex wasn't a big deal for me because, as I've said, it's easy to get sex, you know, from either gender if you want it. You know, if you put yourself out there as wanting that, you can get those things.
And we put so much importance on sex when we're younger.
Exactly.
We put so much. It's like the crucial thing when you're younger is like, no, if we're not sexually compatible, next.
Exactly.
And then you get to an age where you go, no, the sex is almost secondary actually, because you need to be.
Can build.
Yeah,
you, know,
you need to be compatible in so many other ways, and then the sex can come later, and you can work at that.
Exactly,
you know.
that's something you can work at. What you can't work at is, you know, whether that person has got the same values as you, whether that person wants the same things from life as you. Those are things that are a black and white situation, really. If you haven't got those things, then it's not going to work. So that's what I was looking for. And from the sounds of, you know, talking to this girl online, you know, over text messages and phone calls, it seemed like we had very much the same interest, values, very much the same person, to be honest. So we decided to meet halfway in Oxford and have our first date, and it was just magical. That's the only way I can explain it. It was kind of like,
this is giving me all the feels.
It was like, I'd always joke to my friends that the perfect person for me would be me. Like that sounds so narcissistic, but I was like, if I was to meet somebody, I would want them to be like me, because you know, I know I've got good values. I know I'm very caring. I know I care about other people. I know I have good intentions. You know, I'm not, you know, I don't lie. You know, I'm not perfect in any sense, and I can make mistakes and I can do bad things, but I can also be very honest about that and about who I am as a person. Yeah,
absolutely. Self-reflective as well on all of our
and
mistakes,
learn from it.
So
everyone makes mistakes. It's whether you can learn from or not is the big
absolutely
question. And I know that I'm able to do that. I'm able to look at myself and say, you've done this wrong, this is not a very good thing for you to have done, and how are you going to learn from that and how are you going to move on. And I wanted to meet somebody who could do the same thing, who was, you know, able to communicate about how they feel, what they want, all the rest of it. And I really felt like, you know, this person could do that.
And it was a big commitment for both of you to travel as far as Oxford and meet. So already after a bit of conversation, text messaging, phone calls, you both obviously felt the strong enough connection to go, I'm going to drive Centre Point. You know, it could be a complete disaster, but I'm willing to actually go and try that. You both felt that because you met halfway, and then it was like fireworks and explosions, and you kind of went, oh my God, it's amazing in person.
We spent the whole day in Oxford, basically.
Really?
So it was, we didn't know whether it was going to be a couple of hours of a day or, you know, how long we would be there. But I think we met about 12 in the afternoon, and we left probably about 9 o'clock at night.
Wow, really? Just walking around, talking.
We went to like an art gallery, we went for food, we went to the cinemas, like we would just find anything we could do that meant we didn't have to go home. Do you know what I mean? We really, really enjoyed each other's company.
Amazing.
And it was kind of, it started from then. And
so there are good people on dating apps looking for the same thing as you.
I knew that anyway.
But it's a needle in a haystack.
Was like, but I knew it because I've got so many friends and know so many people that have met their life partners, husbands, girlfriends, wives online. So I knew that you could find it.
Yeah.
But it is, because there are so many people online, it is like a needle in a haystack.
It
and
is.
You have to kind of go through the processes.
Yeah, and there's location settings that come into play, because, all of those kind of things. So
that was the other thing, is that I hadn't, so because I lived in Birmingham, my location settings were only set to, I think, about 20 miles. That was the furthest I was prepared to go to see anybody.
Yeah, fair enough.
And the girl that I met, she had the same settings, about 20 to 30 miles. But it just so happened that the day we matched on Tinder, I was in London seeing a show, and she was in London for work, and our apps just kind of matched up, and we ended up swiping each other. But actually, if we hadn't been in the same place at the time, we would never have come across each other.
Would never have come up on
so
the
profile. So when I say the universe had something for me, I really do think that the universe was pushing me in this direction. Like, even the timing of me changing my settings, it was only probably a couple of days before I matched with this person.
It was supposed to happen at that time. I'm a true believer. I'm a bit spiritual as well, and I definitely believe in the power of the universe and giving us the right things at the right time. So we can all stay hopeful for that, because you're proof that is true. I think you were ready to receive that person in your life, and you were ready to receive a change.
Definitely. So me and her have been seeing each other now. It's coming up to a year. And it's, been absolutely life-altering for me to be in a relationship where I feel valued, wanted, chosen, looked after, cared about, all the things that I've been looking for this whole time. I now have that.
I'm grinning from ear to ear. It's so lovely. So lovely, and I'm so happy that you found that, and that you're happy, you feel comfortable, you feel secure in a relationship with a woman, same-sex relationship. So how did you announce that to the world, to your family? How did that happen? How did you feel when...
So obviously, because we lived in different areas, so she lives in London and I live in Birmingham, there were times when she would have to... Well, it was getting to a stage where she would need to come and stay to spend any time with me, really, because otherwise it's just driving back and forth.
And you really couldn't go to London to see her all the time, because you've got a family, you've got kids.
My granddaughter, even though they weren't living with me, I need to be around for them. So obviously I wanted her to come and stay, and she had come and stayed when my son wasn't there, but she was going to come and stay for a week, and my son was going to be around, and I was like, well, I'm going to have to tell him, ask him how he feels about it, if it's okay. And he's 15 at the moment, so it's not like he's really young, and I wasn't able to have these conversations with him. So, I sat down and spoke to him first and foremost, and just said, I'm seeing a woman, and I would really like her to come and stay. I want to know how you feel about it. And he was really good. He was really good about it. He was very shocked. He was like, "Oh, so my mom's a lesbian? Is that what you're saying?" But actually, he took it really, really well. As you say, like, young people these days, this is normal to them. But
that's so brave of you. I mean, it is normal to them, and it is really lovely that there are conversations and there is an understanding from young people that really truly understand that there are completely grey areas of sexuality. But it was so black and white in our day, and there's so many different colours of the rainbow now that kids really do understand.
They do. Way more than we do.
But he was probably more cool about it than you were then, maybe. Like, were you really anxious and scared about telling him, or did you sort of take it in your stride?
No, I was anxious about telling him, because you kind of know how they're going to take it, but you're never 100% sure. And obviously I didn't want him to become confused or upset or kind of question his whole existence because of my sexuality. But he kind of just took it in his stride. And then I was on a roll then. I just kind of literally told everybody. I told my daughter, who doesn't live with me, but obviously needed to know because my son knew. And then once I told her, I told my sister and my mum, my really close friends. I kind of just told everybody. So you
just you ripped off the plaster, really. You told your son because your son lives with you. That was kind of priority, and you wanted your girlfriend to come and stay. And then after he reacted the way he did, you just went, you know what, now he knows, everyone needs to know, and you tore the plaster off.
And you know what, because I'd never said it out loud to anybody, it became quite freeing, I suppose, telling people. So I kind of got addicted to that feeling, and just like, I'm going to tell this person, this person, this person. I just kind of told all the people that I felt like I needed to tell, best friends, really close family and friends.
Amazing. And what was the general reaction? We don't need to sort of talk individually, but
it was
generally...
so boring.
Really? Yeah. No one batted an eyelid?
No one batted an eyelid. It was almost like they'd been like, yeah, all along we've known that type of thing. They didn't say that, but they really didn't care. And that's just a testament to how good of a group of people I've built around me.
Absolutely.
And I wasn't scared to tell any of them because I knew they would react that way.
Amazing.
And I thought if they didn't, then that would show me for somebody that they're, it would show me that they're somebody that I thought they weren't, which would be a good thing for me. If I've got friends that are pretending to be one thing and actually are something else, I want to know about that.
Totally, and it's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Again, not everyone has, I guess, the strength and hindsight to look at it like that because you're so, at that time, focused on me, like, oh my God, I've got this news and I've got to tell people, and how are people going to view me? Mm-hmm. But yeah, the reality is at that age, the people around you, your network, whether it's like immediate family or chosen family, if somebody has views that oppose yours, there's no time for that anymore, really, in your 40s, and you really want that exposed. So it's a really good way of looking at that. I
want people to love me for me. So
yes.
And I hadn't changed. Like, I'm still the same person that I was before I said that I was dating a woman. So
absolutely. And people know that. People can see that. And generally, no one really had an issue with it.
No. Absolutely amazing. Boring. Nobody had anything to say. Obviously, they were a bit shocked.
And like the drama, the drama lover, the theatre lover. Where's the drama?
Where's no drama whatsoever. Like, can't make a movie out of this situation. It's so boring.
I want to write a play.
But there needs to be a reaction for a play, and there's no reaction. But yeah, they were a bit shocked because obviously some people had no idea that I was interested in women. I hadn't really spoke about it with that many people, especially my family. I'd never spoke about it with my family, so they were not expecting me to say I was in a relationship with a woman, but actually. They were like, okay, like, especially my mum, she was really good because she saw it as that companionship. She was kind of like, I've seen how difficult your life has been dating men this whole time, and I know that you need somebody for you who's going to look after you, who cares about you, who's going to do the best for you, and if this is that person, then I'm happy. Do you know what I mean?
Amazing. She sounds delightful, and I think that you've been really lucky to get a response from everyone in your life.
But I think my age of coming out makes a massive difference.
I also think your age is coming out, and I think saying what you said before was really about being at an age where you go, like you said, I'm living my life for me with no excuses. Yeah. And if you want to be in my life, great. And if you don't, because of whatever reason, you don't love me for me, then that's fine.
Exactly.
That takes a long time to get there.
I would never have felt like that in my 20s or early 30s. I would have.
And I think if there are people out there listening that may be exploring that and feel that they're going to have a difficult ride, the lesson is that actually if people love you, that it won't matter. No. They just want you to be happy. But also that there are people out there that have not had such an easy ride with coming out because everyone's different, everyone's got different views and values and thoughts around that, and your identity sometimes is made up of historical beliefs, and you were changing that belief system in people. Like I'm not only attracted to men and I am now with a woman. Some people would find that hard, and the people in your life didn't, which was amazing.
There might be still, might be people in my friends and my family that just think I'm going through a phase, and because everyone's used to me doing off the cuff random things because I'm dramatic like that. So they're like, probably just like, oh, Kimberley's dating a woman, we'll see how long that lasts, type of thing. And if that's how they feel, that's absolutely fine, as long as they're not being disrespectful to me or my partner.
Absolutely, yes.
And we can still kind of be in the same room and be kind of happy together in that sense. If they've got those private views, that's up to them. But I just didn't want any contention with anybody or anybody to be rude or force their opinions upon me and what I want.
And make you feel like what you're doing is wrong. What you're doing is, there's nothing like, what you're doing is living your truth.
Exactly.
You found somebody to share your life with. You've got what you searched for, what you wanted was put out there to the universe, and the universe gave that back in female form.
Exactly.
Which was amazing.
In the version of me.
In the version of you, and you said you're so like your partner as well. You found
we are so similar. It's really scary. Yeah, it really is. But I definitely feel privileged in that, my story has been a lot simpler than a lot of other people's stories, as you said, people's coming out stories, and people absolutely fearful of losing family and friends, and have lost family and friends in the process of being able to come out. And I've not had to experience any of that. And I don't feel like I lived my life as a gay person who couldn't come out and couldn't tell anybody. I genuinely didn't know that that I had these suppressed feelings because of how pushed down they were. I wasn't kind of living. I didn't feel like I was living a lie at that time. I was just being me.
You were just being you.
But I know there are people who live that way. They don't feel like they can be themselves, and they have to.
There are, and I would say to those people that if and when you come out, you need to be ready to lose people.
Yeah.
You need to be that confident in yourself that the people that you would be ready to lose are the people that you actually don't want in your life. Because in order for somebody to walk away from you because of who you're attracted to, means that their in-depth homophobia is not going to serve your life.
No.
And it's really difficult.
But imagine being a young person.
Yes.
Just, your whole life revolves around feeling wanted and needed. By other people.
Of course, by your parents, by your siblings, by, not even just your, your close friends, but your immediate family.
So the fear of losing that is really
very difficult.
And I do realise that I have lived a privileged story in that sense, that I have not had to go through some of those things, and I haven't had to lose anybody really. Everybody that's in my life now is still in my life and still care about me and love me.
It's beautiful and it's amazing, and it can happen to a lot of people like that. I think the fear of coming out can sometimes definitely. Actually people are flexible and they want the best, but and
sometimes you can lose those people and they'll come back after they've had to think about
it happened with me. It's the same thing, is that sometimes you do need to give people time and space, but I hope that people hearing that will might feel some of the things that you felt and feel empowered to live their truth. I really do. So
I've honestly never been happier. This is like the happiest I've ever been in my life. I don't feel like I feel like I'm fully, truly, wholly myself now, and I can just be me, and people can take it or leave it. It's just how it is.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's it's what we all want as humans, and that is so lovely to hear.
It takes a long time to get there sometimes, but when you do, it's worth it.
So you're living a really happy life. You feel like you're completely yourself, and you're in a loving, supportive relationship. What else are you doing now at the moment then? So you're used to be with straight.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you with your, I don't like it, and I don't like putting people in boxes. We don't need to be gay and straight or bi. We don't need to be any of it. We can actually just be fluid and just be living. Is there a label? Would you say that you are a lesbian? Would you say that you are bi? Would you say that I don't abide to any of those labels?
I'm still working it out, I think. Okay. I just know I'm not straight. I used to be straight and now I'm not.
Because straight in the sense is that you're living a heterosexual life only, and that is really what straight means, and you're not doing that.
I have days when I'm just like, ugh, men make me sick, and then other times when I'll see like an Instagram video of some fit guys and I'll be like, oh yeah, he's fit. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, maybe I am still attracted to men. So I'm still working it out in terms of...
But it's always changing. Sexuality is fluid. I don't think it is ever black and white. It was painted to us in our generation that it was black and white. But I think it's always evolving. It's always moving and changing, and it can be fluid. And you can feel something one day to something the next day, and that's absolutely fine. We're all just working that out ourselves as well.
Because I'm in a relationship now, it's not that important for me to really work it out, because I'm not looking to be with anybody else. I can feel that way one day and then a different way another day, because actually I'm coming home to my partner and we are happy, and I don't need to look for anything or anybody else. So I can take my time to kind of explore that a little bit and just see if I land on a label, if I even want a label in that sense.
So we're not going to touch on that label. What we're going to basically say is, I used to be straight, but what you are now is I am happy or in your truth.
Living in my truth.
Living in your truth. Wonderful. So what else can we look forward to in the future for Kimberley?
So I have an Instagram page called On the Couch with Kim, and that was born out of my frustration of dating men. So I started a whole Instagram page about relationships and dating, using my kind of counselling experience in that sense, and my experience of dating, which was very extensive, and kind of brought that to life on my Instagram page. So that happened during lockdown because that's when everyone was kind of doing their social media thing, and it's been a bit.
And also on the couch with Kim. So you were just explain the concept of it so people understand what it is.
So On the Couch with Kim started off as an Instagram page talking about kind of dating and relationships, but it's kind of grown a bit into my business now. So I am a freelance therapist and see clients on a one-to-one basis privately. So that's become kind of my counselling business. And then my social media presence is kind of me giving advice and guidance around dating and relationships. I've done some Instagram live interviews with people around lots of different things, interracial dating, just all the different dating disasters and things that can happen. I've talked to lots of different people about those and had those. But as I said, that happened in lockdown, and I've kind of neglected that a little bit over the last couple of years, but I'm really hoping to maybe start that up again. And
well, you've been on a bit of a journey.
I've been on
yourself.
My own journey, yeah.
And so sometimes you really need to put that on the back burner. You are in a position now where you can pick that up with even more experience and even more.
And as I said, I like to live in my truth. I don't want to be online selling a certain type of person that I am when I'm going through a whole different change and transition at the moment in terms of who I am and what I want to be.
The wonderful thing about what we all discovered in lockdown was that the technology allows us to reach people way beyond a location.
Exactly.
So On the Couch with Kim allowed you to talk to the world through Instagram about your own experiences and maybe give a bit of advice from a therapy background that you've got. Yeah. You've got your one-to-one clients that you see, and that can be in person or remotely.
Yeah.
And you can do Instagram lives where you speak to people around the world, at any time zone, and you can actually have a live conversation with them about their dating experience and try to give people advice.
Yeah. Well, I think I ended up learning more than I actually gave advice because, people come with so many different experiences and backgrounds and things. And it was a great time to kind of learn from their experiences. But I would really like to start getting that going again and just do some more of those Instagram lives. And,
so they can find you on Instagram. Is the handle
on the Couch with Kim, all one word.
All one word. Yeah. On the Couch with Kim, all one word. Fantastic.
Yeah. And then also I'm part of the Crescent Theatre in Birmingham. And you'll catch me there doing all sorts. At the moment, I'm about to audition to be in the Christmas Wassail, which is kind of singing and readings for Christmas feel and just nice Christmassy stuff.
Nice, warm, Christmassy hug. You've just done a really crucial, massive role.
Oh, God, yeah.
Mama Rose.
I played Mama Rose in Gypsy the musical.
Gypsy the musical.
Yeah.
What a huge role.
And that was amazing. Really stressful. Really, as you said, like a massive role. It actually really took it out of me. But yeah, what an incredible experience.
Yeah, I mean, for any lady performer of a certain age, that's such a crucial, pivotal role. It's it's a mammoth task, huge amount of scripts, huge amount of words, and big songs all through.
I was knackered afterwards.
You must have been exhausted.
I was.
But and the stuff that you've got, so as well as the audition stuff that you've got coming up involved at the moment is another
so
play?
I'm broadening my horizons a little bit, and I'm going to be kind of personally assisting and assisting directing on Nora, A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen. But beautiful
play.
Oh God, what's her name? Steph something. Can't remember what it is now. But it's been adapted for to 3 different Noras, so it's over 3 different time periods.
Wow.
So yeah, it's going to be really, really exciting. I've done a bit of directing when I was at theatre school way back in the day, but yeah, I'm trying to kind of broaden my horizons a little bit, learn from some of the directors within the theatre.
If anyone's in and around Birmingham, you must book your tickets to come and see A Doll's House.
In March, so please come and see that.
Yeah.
Come and see a Christmas wassail. If you love Christmas, you'll love a Christmas wassail.
It's a big Christmas hug. Yeah, I'll be there for sure.
It's like giving you a cup of, you do get actually mulled wine when you're there and a mince pie, so you definitely feel like you are celebrating Christmas.
And then you get hugged by Kimberley's voice, which if anyone hasn't heard, you need to come down and hear it because you've got an incredible voice.
Thank you.
Beautiful voice. I think it's amazing. You've been really, really, really honest and open about that whole period of your life.
It's my first time really talking about it in this detail, so it's been great to kind of get it off my chest, I suppose.
You're so clear about what your purpose is with describing your experience. So the fact that you've only really first time.
I kind of journaled about it, and I had a bit of therapy at the time when I was coming out.
Yeah.
And thinking about getting in this relationship. I had a bit of therapy at the time, so I've had that outlet in that sense, but
not
in terms of talking to the world about it, I've not had that opportunity. So
it's really brave actually to talk about that experience, and talking about that experience, as we know, hopefully will reach who, even if it's just one person that listens to this. I think it's going to make a big difference to them, and I feel like I know you better, so thank you for that. We're all going to follow you on The Couch and Kim, and wish you a big luck with that. And I'll be down at the Crescent Theatre to watch you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Kim.
Thanks, Dean.
See you later.
Bye.
Oh, I really did enjoy my talk with Kimberley. I really do feel that she just takes everything in her stride. She's just such a go-getter. She's so unapologetic, and she is really living her life unapologetically. And I think the reason for that is the fact that she's just done the work. She mentioned a few times that she's done the therapy, she journals, whatever the work is for her, she's done it. And so she was really able to sit and live in her truth and tell her story just so matter of fact. It was really inspiring, actually, and I hope that I can take a little bit of Kimberley's nonchalant sort of, it doesn't really matter, I'm just doing my thing, and she sort of takes it all with a pinch of salt and takes it in her stride. And I think because she's putting that out to the universe, everyone else is giving that back as well. Everyone just wants her to succeed and be happy. The link to On the Couch with Kim will be in the show notes, so please do give her a follow and follow that story. She's given some great advice on dating and some great conversations with people on Instagram as well. I wish her all the luck in the future, and I'll definitely be down at the Crescent Theatre in Birmingham to watch some of the things that she'll be in and or directing in the future. Thanks so much, Kim, and thank you all for listening. To keep up to date with all the latest episodes, please remember to subscribe, like, and follow wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra generous, please also remember to share this podcast with friends and family. I really do rely on you, the listeners, to build our community and keep this podcast going. So if you're picking up what I'm putting down, then do me a favour and spread the word. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you very soon on another episode.